You're tired of working day in and day out, trying to find new customers, chasing leads, doing whatever work comes your way, and never getting to earn what you're worth. You do it because you love the work, and you're passionate about serving older customers and their families. We get it. What you need is more of the right customers for your business, and more income for you and your family, so you can grow and help more people in your community. Well, you're in the right place, because this is Booming Your Bottom Line.
Hi, this is Aaron Murphy, and you're listening to episode 75 of Booming Your Bottom Line. Today we're bringing you a brand new owners chat with our very special guest, Bob Rausch, Ph.D. And Bob is the founder and president of Energy Driven Leader, Inc., where he combines his Ph.D. in clinical psychology with 30 years of experience working with corporate executives and entrepreneurs in both the U.S. and Canada, as well as Europe. Bob assists leaders in discovering their potential and how to maximize that energy. He's a certified executive coach, registered corporate coach, senior consultant with Birkman International, and founding partner with the John Maxwell Coaching Training and Speaker Program. He has authored 4 books and numerous articles on leadership. He was twice nominated for Author of the Year in Georgia and received the Reader's Favorite Award by the Fabricators Manufacturers Assoc International. Some of Bob's clients include U.S. Steel, PGA Tours, Pfizer Pharmaceuticals, and Universities of Toronto and New York. Woo! Beautiful. Bob, thanks for being here today, and it's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Aaron and Mark. I appreciate it. It's a pleasure to be here. And of course, everyone says, every time I hear that introduction, I'm thinking, I wonder who these guys are talking about. So, but I love what I do. So,
well, we do appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. Let's go ahead and get started. Why don't you tell us about what you do? We got to hear your bio, but tell us what that means.
Yeah, Mark. I practiced, had private practice in clinical psychology for about 17 years, and one day I decided that I was going to need a psychologist or a psychiatrist if I didn't find something else to do. And I have to tell you guys, the best things that ever happened to me, I just kind of showed up. It just happened. And as a result, I did a workshop for LSU with one of their business docs, and I was asked by a company to come over and work with their leadership team. And I'd never worked with a corporation, but I started to work with them for 2 years and developed my process, if you will. And so that coming all the way up to the present, I now work with, I do executive coaching, not only with corporate executives, but also with entrepreneurs, which is a lot of business owners. I have a lot of business owners who are very entrepreneurial, and then and also business owners who may not be as entrepreneurial. But I've done work with all 3 groups, and I've done coaching with all 3 groups.
Very nice. And then, how, just in your own words, how did you get involved with it? Can it take us from that point kind of to where you are today? Give us a little history about how we got from A to B and here to now.
Let me back up to my private practice. I'm pretty serious about the fact that I got really tired of after 35,000 hours of working with people who had difficulties, had problems to solve. Not all of them were serious, but they were problems to solve. And I remember one night I was really frustrated, and it had been accumulating, and so I stayed in my office late. And actually, I was walking around in my office and I was praying. I said, "Look, if they're not getting any better, and I'm getting worse." And so, nobody wants to see a burned out psychologist when they come into the office, and so I kind of got this. I didn't get the verbal message, but the message that came across to me was, Bob, these people are out of energy. Now, I'm not a woo-woo person. In other words, it's not the energy like New Age people talk about. It's more the fact that we all have this energy in our body, and doctors and researchers find that when we die, that energy leaves, whatever that energy is. They have no idea what it is. But I thought, well, you know what the heck, the simplest things in life are really the best things. And so the next morning, and I saw a lot of men in my practice, which I do now in my coaching. The next morning, when my first client came in, my first patient, I asked him, well, how did you use your mental and emotional energy this week? And of course, he looked at me like a deer in the headlights because he didn't know what I was talking about, and I didn't know what I was talking about. But sooner than later, I found out that again, we all have this energy in our system, and I researched this with all types of disciplines, with doctors, with physicists, with religious leaders, just to find out what does all this mean. That's where the books come from. Mm-hmm. The fact that I put that stuff down on paper. So when I started working with this corporation, this leadership team, this first one, which again was a pharmaceutical team, I asked them the same question. How are you guys using your mental and emotional energy in terms of communication, in terms of your purpose, in terms of your mission, in terms of how you're relating to one another? How are you solving problems? And because the truth of the matter is, energy in our body and on a team doesn't care how it's used. Mm-hmm. And we know through all the athletics, if you're 100%, you're going to perform better than if you're 50%.
Oh, absolutely.
And so what I would do is we would write down all the ways that they were using their energy effectively, and how were they decreasing their energy, and how was that affecting their bottom line. With the steel industry, not U.S. Steel, but another steel industry, we worked on that for probably a year. And what we did in the pipe mill division of that company is we increased the productivity of their output by 10%. Now, my only mistake with that was I should have asked them at the very beginning, could I have 1% of the profit if it worked? But I didn't practice my entrepreneurial spirit.
There you go.
But so it's the same thing. It's like, people relate to this, especially if I ask them, have you ever worked with a boss who is an energy vampire? Have you ever worked with a boss who robbed you of your energy and expected you to be 100%? Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of the general idea of how I've kind of evolved into this corporate and business owner and entrepreneurial practice.
Well, that's actually a good segue into this next question, and that is, since we primarily talk to business owners, how would you tell a business owner about preparing him or herself to serve these older customers? What would be your advice to them?
And Bob, if I could ask add one little piece to that, because of what you just said about the steel industry and what that 10% productivity ad looked like, let's reference, because you're a coach and so are Mark and I, to business owners.
Sure.
Let's not lose sight of, or we'll come back later, the ROI, right? You paid for yourself as a return on investment. But Mark, go ahead.
Yes, yeah. And so, Mark, the question is, what do they do to prepare themselves to work with the older client? That was the question? Mm-hmm. Okay. I found 5 things. Actually, let me start with this. I found 3 things. 3 things that are very, very important for a business owner. Number 1 is business owners, people, let's just say leadership. Leadership, most times, the leader needs a confidant. Mm-hmm. Who can I talk to? Not necessarily about business, but about the frustration of business.
Oh, yeah.
The conflict of business. What is this business doing to me? How is it affecting my own personal ROI. Am I getting a return on my investment personally, mentally, emotionally, and physically, spiritually, however they tend to see it? So the fact of it is that they need a confidant. The second thing is a business owner has to have a strong team.
Mm-hmm.
They have to work on that team. I just had a guy in Missouri, Kansas City, call me, and he said, "Gee whiz," he said, I'm 60 years old, and I wanted my team's working themselves to death. I really need to talk more about leadership with my team." So my sense about what has to happen for that business owner is he has to make sure every team member sees themselves as a leader in that organization. Now, this is not new news to you guys, but to business owners, it gets to be new news because the business owner thinks they're supposed to make all the decisions and all of that.
Yep.
So, and that's too much to bear. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I don't care how little, how small, how medium your business is. The third thing that they wanted was a work-life balance. Now, I'm not big on work-life balance because I spend more time working than I do with my family. But I look at it from a standpoint of quality time with my family as opposed to quantity time with my family. So those are the three things. Now, the interesting thing is that the stronger the leadership team, the stronger the team, the better the work-life balance for that individual or for his team.
Oh, absolutely. I would agree with that.
Yeah,
It's
that's
just,
fair.
yeah, it's just common sense. It's like an architect making a blueprint. I mean, you get the foundation down, and the rest of it is going to be more solid. The rest of the building is going to be more solid. So as I began to, and I got that from a survey I did across the United States. But then to get more specific, Mark, with your question, what I found is there are basically 5 things that I have found in leaders or business owners that they have to pay attention to. Number 1 is they have to pay attention to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They have to continue growing. They have to begin. They have to have a sense of what it means to be a servant leader, what it means to serve other people, and the cost. That's why I was burning out in my private practice.
Yep.
I mean, I thought I had to have the answers for all the people who walked in my office.
Hmm.
You
Oh,
know,
you're speaking our language.
Yeah, no joke.
yeah,
No joke.
I listened to a couple of your broadcasts too. I really thought they were great, and yeah, I mean, we are talking the same thing, you know. But business owners have a very difficult time, as you guys know, really saying, well, I don't know if I have the time to do that.
Yeah.
And I say, you don't have the time not to do it.
Yeah, you make really nice parallel points to conversations we have, whether it's procrastinating on aging in place, right, and remodeling your home for better safety and independence and freedom. We know what the outcome of that is. It's break a hip, go to a nursing home, never come home.
That's
Well,
exactly.
there's the price of not paying attention. But for the business owner, you make a really good point, and I know you reference personal purpose being a big deal and playing a role in, being a real person who can build relationships quickly. All of our listeners tend to have their own personal backstory, Bob, and it is a passion-driven one, and sometimes it's necessity being the mother of invention. People ended up caretaking for a parent and couldn't find what they needed, and a business idea was born, right?
Right.
But these folks are in this industry for a reason, and there is passion. Can you speak to, from your perspective, what that personal purpose looks like, and who are those folks that can build relationships quickly? What do they look like?
I tell you what'll help. Yes, I tell you what'll help a person build the relationship faster than anything else, and that is what you just alluded to, Aaron. And that happens to be, what is my life purpose? Why am I on the planet? I just got an invitation to do a presentation to a group of CEOs forum, and overall the question is, how do we develop our purpose? These are people who've been in business for a long time. The
Mm-hmm.
last 5 out of the 6 men I've talked to and started coaching with asked the one question, or they made the one statement, I want to know what my purpose is on the planet. So my sense about a business owner is, you're right, it may be that they have sick parents or they have a reason for starting a business or whatever. But I think a person needs to have a personal reason. Why am I here? So I found out, I talked to my parents, I talked to a bunch of people. What kind of kid was I? What kind of person have you seen me? My friends, which is exactly what I do when I start working with a client. What would your wife say about you? That's a
Oh yeah.
scary thing. But what? But the idea, my purpose, my life purpose, is to be a catalyst to help people discover their potential and to maximize their energy. So where do I do that? I do it with US Steel. I've done it with Pfizer. I've done it with all of my clients. I've done that thing. What has been your life purpose? And so mine is to be a catalyst to help people discover their potential and to maximize their energy everywhere they go. So they don't just do it with their clients. They do it at the grocery store. They do it at church. They do it in the convenience store. They do it wherever they're going. They're working their purpose. And what happens is, and I really have seen this, what happens is that person begins to understand the very naturalness of what they're here to do. Whether they're plumbing, whether they're electricians, whether they're painters, whether they're refrigerator people, whatever they are. And that begins to help really create the passion. And and Mark, I have a lot of energy and a lot of passion. I truly, truly do. And I have to keep my purpose fresh in my mind.
Right.
Because the bottom line is the world is not always a nice place. It kind of does us in sometimes. So for me, that return on investment personally gets to be my mental and emotional income at the end of the day, whether I'm doing a podcast with people or they're doing a podcast with me, that has to start there. So when I go into a business owner's, let's say an executive or a business owner's office, I am so not worried about whether I'm going to get a gig.
Oh yeah.
I am so not concerned. My deal is to be there to live my purpose. And so
Right.
I do what you guys do.
So, and yeah, exactly. And speaking of that, you're talking a lot about energy and, how that affects your purpose. And how can a business owner, how can she use that energy, or he use that energy, and how can they teach their teams to do the same thing?
The one way that they can do it is, as I mentioned earlier, what they can do is they can you have to start with an executive team. If you don't have a big executive team, then you start with your managers or your supervisors or whatever, and have and I call it a come to Jesus meeting. Have a real talk about the idea of, okay, guys or gals, how are we using our personal energies on a daily basis? Let's make a list here of how we think we're doing it right, and let's make a list of the things that are going on that we could be more efficient in using our energy, whether it's architecture or whatever. I know, I just turned on my light. I know the power is not in the bulb. The power is in the electricity.
Right.
And so what I want to find out, I would have that team really make a list of those things, and then I'd have them do whether a weekly or bi-weekly meeting, talking about 3 or 4 things that they have created that would improve the energy, individual energy and energy of the team. and so that it improves the performance. Now, please, this is all going to results, right?
Right. Has to.
Yeah, we're not trying to get people to be kumbaya and we'll hold hands and all go swimming or whatever. But it's the idea. It's the idea that we want to return on our investment.
Absolutely.
And so that's the way I would start. And I would say to a business owner, any person who doesn't play nice, give them about 2 times, and if they don't work out, get rid of them.
Uh-huh.
Because if you have a member of your team who's a vampire, they are going to rob the team of the energy, and you don't need that.
I just fired one.
Did you? There you go.
I did. I gave him 2 tries, and then I said, "Yeah, no, this isn't the. You're just not a fit for the feeling I want in the office, and the energy. Yeah, he was a bloodsucker. So yeah,
yeah, we can free up the future. I'm just free up their future. Let them go find someplace else to just bloodsuck. That
was it. It's like, hey, you can do that. You just can't do that here.
That's right. That's right.
That's on your own turf. So, well, this is kind of an interesting question. Speaking of boomers, whether you as a boomerpreneur, some second career at 45 plus or whatever the case may be, how does experiential knowledge play into, serving older folks, for example, since we're referring to our audience?
I believe that you could read every book on the planet about leadership. You mentioned me being a founding partner with John Maxwell. John Maxwell's written probably 80 books. Brilliant. And he is a great guy. I mean, he is a truly, truly great guy. But what I believe, it's not the knowledge that we gain. Because a lot of times people will take that book, put it on the shelf, and they may never refer to it again. It's the experiences that create the knowledge. So if I trip and fall, or I fail, or whatever it is, if I do something that I say, gee whiz, I've learned something from it. So everything has to be a learning experience. So I go into, I'll tell you one I goofed up on. I had my first $1 billion company down in Florida. And I mentioned to one of his senior vice presidents, a lady, that she go in and talk to the CEO about areas, or would he tell her when she's off target or whatever, and kind of be a mentor. Well, the guy didn't have time for that. I mean, she'd already worn him out anyway. And so what I said when I talked to the CEO, he said, I'm not doing that with her. She'll be in here every single day wanting advice about this or that and the other. And I apologized to him because I didn't know what had been going on. And then I'm coaching the person, the lady, and I said to her, you need to talk to your team members. You need to talk to whoever. Talk to me. She is talking to me. But you really don't need to be a buddy to the CEO. He can't make your life better from that stand. He's not a coach.
Right.
That makes sense to you guys?
Oh yeah.
Yep. And you're right. You could read every book, whether John Maxwell, brilliant books, but without implementation, I call that doorstop education, right? I think all those tapes in the 80s, without implementation, what'd you do? I didn't go to grad school on purpose because I already had an internship, and I already figured out that the ethereal academia wasn't going to give me what I needed to know in the field, so I stayed in the field.
I gotcha. I have Ginger and I have 5 boys, and we have 6 grandsons. We have no idea how to take care of girls. But what I've told my 5 boys, listen, guys, education is important, but experiences teach. Mm-hmm. So get experiences and learn from those experiences, because I have a son who's a pilot, has no degree, but he is an incredibly good pilot. And I won't tell you what the rest of them do, but they have great jobs. So the idea, Mark, is exactly right. And you called that a doorstop. What did you call that?
It's a doorstop education versus, until you have field experience or implement what you've learned, it's just a book, you guys.
Well, that's exactly right.
Mark, go ahead. You're next.
We've talked a lot about your relationships, right, with your employees or your management team and even your customers. So how does self-control and patience play a part in building those relationships, right?
That is a great question. So when we look at this, we're looking at the first part being purpose, for that business owner to develop the purpose. We're looking at the second part, basically, of that person really evaluating their energy and how they're using their energy, whether it's with themselves or with their team or whatever. The third part being the experiential knowledge. And that fourth part is exactly what you're saying. It's self-control, which basically means that when I have those other three things in practice, I've done my doorstop education, then what I need to do is when I run up to a person who is hard to get along with, or a person who does, and I've had several that they just tried my patience. I mean, they just wanted to just irritate the daylights out of me. The idea is that I always have to maintain my control. There's an old African proverb that says, if there's no enemy within, the enemy without can do us no harm.
Oh, that's good, yeah.
I loved it when I first heard it. And so the idea, Mark, is that when I control me, that is the biggest area that needs to be controlled. Then I say about other people do things for their own reasons, not for mine. I don't know why the guy's miserable. I don't know why he's having trouble. I don't know his life. And so I think until we know someone, we can't really get in their shoes, the old empathy thing. And so my sense about it is, if I run into a crotchety old person, let's say, I don't know what they've experienced, so I need to have some empathy, but I need to maintain my own self-control. And also in my business, I have to do that, because you guys know, and I know, that the kind of businesses we're doing is real volatile. I mean, it goes up and down, all of that stuff. And so we really need to be able to be in self-control and have a plan for what we're going to do to deal with our own anxieties, to deal with our own pressures, that kind of thing. That's what self-control is.
Before we get to the next question, I just want to mention something real quick. You had said just a few minutes ago about being able to maintain your self-control as a way to control the situations that occur because of these people that are in your life, right? I mean, that's essentially what you're saying. We're not going to go down this rabbit hole, but I just want to mention it, that when you can practice that self-control, this is not about necessarily controlling your environment. This is about controlling yourself, your actions, and the things that you do with your mind, with your hands, whatever. That brings about a whole new level of energy.
Yes.
And absolutely.
And honestly, when a person can get to that point, that energy, and I'm not trying to get all mystical or anything, but magic starts to happen in your life.
Yeah.
Because you start attracting better people, better clients.
That's exactly right.
Better projects, better situations. And your business life improves, yes, but your personal life just skyrockets when you can exercise that self-control.
That's a great point, and you are exactly right.
So empowering, right? I mean, it's a meditative exercise. It's funny, Bob, when you were talking, I'm thinking, God, my toughest area, the toughest arena for me is the parenting part.
Mm-hmm.
It's the 11 and the 8-year-old that they know how to push your buttons. It comes so naturally, right? But to take to go at flat affect while teaching lessons or providing boundaries or and to take the emotion out is critically empowering. I mean, any part of this to any entrepreneur, and it's probably why you're as good as you are at what you do and busy, because any part of business growth, whether you're just starting or whether you're trying to scale a company, is almost, at least half, it might be 90% of it's about personal growth first.
Right.
And if you're not getting there on your own, how do you bring anybody with you as a leader, right?
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, it's
Right.
got to start with you guys. And, we talk to our clients about, guys, so much of this isn't just, yeah, we've got the technical data for you and we're going to walk you through implementation. But if you're not working on you or you don't see the value in where you can go along that way, the energy thing, it's, Bob Proctor, right? The
Right.
Secret, any of
Right.
those, right, references are in that realm with Mr. Gladwell and yourself. So what's exciting for you? What's going on and, on the horizon? Where do you go next? And what gets you up in the morning?
Yeah, let me just a couple comments on what you said, because
Yeah.
I am, gee whiz, I just think that is exactly right. Both of you are so on target in my mind anyway. I said I have five, Ginger and I have 5 boys, and Ginger doesn't like me to say this, but I had the same issue. And I used to, I tell people I didn't know what original sin was till my kids came along, and then I found out, but and they're all great men now. But so I recognized early on, as you're recognizing, Aaron, that I needed to take care of me during the day. So I took me home with something to give at night.
Okay.
Oh, that's awesome.
And
Yeah.
the other thing is that I would be happy to send this. I'm not selling anything here. I wrote an article in the late 90s called The Insatiable Male, because what I found is that when business owners get really, really stressed, they feel like they need to be responsible for everything.
Mm-hmm.
If the kid's not making good grades in school, it's my fault. If I'm not taking the wife on that vacation, it's my fault. It's my fault. And it's a dead giveaway when a guy's doing that they've become insatiable.
Yeah.
So, I love what y'all are saying about it. So what gets me up in the morning is my purpose. It really is my purpose. What got me up this morning is this that we're doing right now, and also the clients that I'm going to talk to later on, because of what y'all are saying, and that is that when we work on ourselves, our relationships become more natural with people. Because I'm not worried about what you think of me. It's more important what I think of you than what you think of me. Mm-hmm. So does everyone hire me? No. But you know what? They're just not ready.
Amen to that.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
when people are ready, then they'll hire you. But I have to maintain that consistency. So getting up in the morning, and trust me, I have white knuckle nights. I wake up in this cold sweat. I mean, I've done the whole thing, and that's why I love this topic so much. But to be able to touch the lives of people and to really help them see that they are responsible for themselves. I'm not responsible for them. I'm responsible to them. Yep. And when I wake up and I think of how I'm going to help someone get to that place where they're going to be responsible to, or I'm going to be responsible to them, they're going to be responsible to their business, to their customers, but don't take responsible for people. Right. It makes a big difference for me.
Yeah. Okay, so going down that road, let's get to the gold nugget for today. What's the one thing that you could tell a small business owner who was trying to, work that magic every day, build something that has meaning, right, to them, their families, their communities? their customers, what's the gold nugget that you would give them?
Hire a coach. No, I'm not. No.
All
There it
right.
is.
We love
Call Aaron and Mark, or call Dr. Bob. Yeah, what I would say is that a business owner has to be able, and I'm coming back to what you said, Aaron, has to be able to realize that they are, I call it a trichotomous being, basically. They are mind, emotion, and will, or they're mentally, emotional, and physical. You've got to take care of yourself. And if you ever get too busy to take care of who you are, to Aaron's point, at some point, the physiology is going to break down. Or what you'll start doing if you get into the insatiable male stuff and all the pressures on you, you're going to find a way to reduce that pressure. Most people go to drugs, or they go to alcohol, or they go to some deviant behavior to release the anxiety and the anger.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm always amazed at how many. I tell people this all the time. A lot of CEOs need a psychologist. Trust me, they really do need somebody to talk to. But that's what I would say. If you cannot take people where you have not been.
Right. Yeah.
And you talk about return on investment. Somebody asked me one time, and he told me, he said, my CEO was a jerk. He said, I finally quit. He was a real jerk, but he got a whole lot of, he really had terrific return on his investment, made a lot of money. And I asked him, I said, well, what was the turnover like? He said, oh my God, the turnover was horrible. I mean, it was unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, the just pushing and driving people. And that's what happens when a business owner does not take care of him or herself. Then what happens is they start putting the pressure on other people.
Oh, yeah.
And when that happens, then they're draining the energy. They're expecting 100% performance and draining the energy of the people that they expect it from.
Right. And before we get to the last thing that Aaron's going to ask you, I just want to say this about that. You said that you can't take people where you haven't been, and I totally agree with that analogy. But you also can't take people where you want to go if you don't take care of yourself. Because you're that vision, that desire, that organization that you have to have, your ability to manipulate the situation and build those relationships is going to take you to get there. All of that, and Aaron and I see this with almost every small business owner we talk to. All of that gets muddled together, and you can't make sense of it. So if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to deal with those things, which means you're never going to be able to take you or anybody that's coming along with you where you want to go.
That's so true. That is so true.
Can you guys still hear me? I see my...
Yeah, we got you.
Okay,
yeah,
good enough. Cool. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, gosh, I mean, guys, we're all on the same page. We could talk for hours. Bob, I know your time's important, and I wanted to just thank you for being on the show today. It's been really a treat, and gosh, if we do nothing else as coaches, it's, we're your accountability partner, and when you're serious about where you want to go, you'll take us up on it. And guys, if you think it's a ton of skin off our nose, if you don't, well, like Bob said, I can't be responsible for you. I can be responsible to you.
Exactly.
But until, we know that it's, hey, some will, some won't. So what? Next. Right? I mean, there's a languaging that we have to understand, and we keep our emotional cool, and you'll come when you're ready. And only you can answer that question. It doesn't matter what we say. But Bob, I'll tell you what, let's end with how people get a hold of you. You're obviously a valuable asset, and we want to make sure people can reach us. So website, phone number?
Website is www.energydrivenleader.com.
Okay.
My email is drbob, drbob, at energydrivenleader.com. And phone number, and I always love for people to call me, 469-387-6655.
Cool.
Excellent. Well, thank you again, Bob. We really appreciate it. It was a pleasure having you here. And listen, folks, before we get out of here, I've got a bit of news for you. Some of you may have noticed there have been lots of posts and on Twitter and Facebook, and even we included in our newsletter this week about webinars and classes that we've had over the last few weeks. Well, we've been working feverishly to up our game in the training area. We set some goals this year to do a lot of classes, some new subjects, and some updated ones. We've got a new page on our website that specifically shows what upcoming classes there will be. Just go to bybllive.com/classes, and you can see the list. Now, we hope that you enjoyed hearing from Dr. Bob today, and that you will thoughtfully consider the ideas that we've discussed. Take it to heart, learn from it, and by all means, please act on it. Thanks for listening, and until next time, be well, be bold, and boom your bottom line.